I'll talk about Taylor Swift. What? Look, I don't know Taylor Swift's music from the 1930s. I just don't. Although I listen on Sirius XM to Tuxedo Junction, which does have a lot of music from the 30s and 40s. But anyway, I've been told by some of my younger friends and the parents of some of my younger friends that Taylor Swift's music is pretty good. She's a good songwriter. And all I know is the woman has, she has 283 million followers on Instagram. That's more than 250 million. Now, anyone who has that kind of a following anywhere, especially in this rancid, filthy world of the internet, anyone who has that many followers is doing something that is meaningful. And having listened to what she's had to say about certain things, I know that Taylor Swift is not a Christian fascist. She's not an asshole. She's not a right-winger. In fact, she seems to be fairly... like I say, I don't know her from, the people whose music I really followed and still do occasionally are the musicians from the 70s. So here we are 50 years later, and we have Taylor Swift. But from what I've heard, what I've read, she is a decent human being. Well, she endorsed Kamala Harris last night, Taylor Swift did, after the debate between Harris and the Orange Filth. In an Instagram post that she wrote after the debate, and she wrote in a caption of a photo of her with her cat. Yeah, cat ladies, right? J.D. Vance, you dumb fuck. But she wrote that she will be casting her vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Okay, now the quick question, immediate question is, who cares? I mean, I don't care who she votes for. Do you? As a matter of fact, it's none of my goddamn business who she votes for, any more than who I vote for is her business. But the thing that is important is those 283 million followers on Instagram. Now, if just 10% of them, if just 10% of those followers, and I don't know their ages, their genders, their racial identities, if just 10% of her followers on Instagram will cast a vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz this November 5th, that will pretty much tilt the election to Kamala Harris. So who she votes for really is none of my business. But the fact that she has 250 million followers and she is willing to say, well, this is what she said. Here's the full quote. I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she fights for the rights and causes I believe need a warrior to champion them. I think she is a steady-handed, gifted leader, and I believe we can accomplish so much more in this country if we are led by calm and not chaos. I was so heartened and impressed by her selection of running mate Tim Walz, who has been standing up for LGBTQ rights, in vitro fertilization, and a woman's right to her own body for decades. End quote. Well, I mean, what was contained in that post by Taylor Swift was nothing but rational, obvious, Constitution-supporting, democratic, small d, freedom-loving words. And for that, Kamala Harris is going to be even more mercilessly attacked than she has been since she endorsed Joe Biden in 2020. And she posted this endorsement, of course. You probably have heard this just a few minutes after the debate ended. And she also urged her fans to register to vote. And that's what the Christian devils cannot stand. They don't give a shit about Taylor Swift's vote any more than they care about my vote. But it's that 250 million followers that causes the Christian devils to wet themselves when they think about the potential power of those people where it concerns voting. So a lot of people were waiting for this woman's endorsement in the 2024 election. And that's because the reality is, I mean, we live in a media world. Come on, we have been in a media world for how many decades now? And people know that Taylor Swift has the power to move her fans. And the speculation was that she would endorse Kamala Harris. She has used her platform, Instagram, and her 250 million fans in the past to encourage her fan base to register to vote. For example, last fall, she helped get more than 30,000 people registered to vote in one day. And some swing states in 2020 election were decided by less than 30,000 votes. So the power that this pop star has is there. It's knowable, it's recognizable, and it's real. So as far as Kamala Harris endorsing, as far as Taylor Swift endorsing Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, I say I applaud it. I think it's wonderful. Again, I couldn't care less about who Kamala Harris votes for, but I do care about the 250 million people who follow her on Instagram and how she is able to convince people with her words when she says, I believe we can accomplish so much more in this country if we are led by calm and not chaos. So, the co-founder and executive director of a little organization called Swifties for Kamala, this woman is named Irene Kim. And shortly after Swift posted her statement in support of Kamala Harris, Irene Kim wrote this, quote, "We're thrilled about Taylor Swift's endorsement of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Like we've said since starting Swifties for Kamala, we've had no doubt that Taylor would endorse at the right time, and we're excited about the momentum she will bring to this campaign." End quote. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.